I mean, for me, the JFK thing is 100% inside job, and we have so much proof. It's a ridiculous.
But honestly, Alex, I'm listening to what you're saying. I mean, and you make some good points and some very compelling points, but I haven't heard anything that contradicts other evidence that I think is strong evidence.
All right, well, let me just say this, because you have a large audience, and it's important for them to know that I have made 25 films, and they're all free. 25 films, and the important film they need to see to understand the financial collapse and how it's done by design. I made this film over a year ago, and you'll now notice when you watch The Obama Deception on YouTube and Google for free, just Google The Obama Deception, that everything that we cover in the film literally has now happened. I mean, I lay out everything Obama's going to do because of who put him in power. I released the film a month and a half after he was in office. Okay, people need to go watch for free End Game Blueprint for Global Enslavement. End Game Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Because I will show you the elite. I will show you their own writings, their own statements. They openly state that they see us as garbage that has to be taken out, that there's too many of us, and some can argue that's true, but the point is we're all being targeted, and they are putting soft kill binary weapons in the food and water, and degenerative diseases are all off the charts, and the UN has been caught adding live polio to shots worldwide. They've been caught adding live cancer viruses to every major vaccine. I have all their admissions. I have CNN from yesterday admitting that there is silicon plastic in the chicken McNuggets. Okay,
that is a huge, bold statement that, like you say, you have documentation, yet I've never heard of any of this on any other.
I know. I just gave you the films for free. That in-game blueprint for global enslavement. Sir, earlier when I started the show, I mean, when you first had me on, I gave you John P. Holdren, Ecoscience, Population, Resources, Environment. You can search engine Ecoscience, and you'll find AP and Reuters admitting that, White House science czar under fire for statements about putting sterilants in water. Yes, sir, what I'm telling you is the truth. And what I'm telling you is I mean, look.
How do we know you're not a misinformation? Like, almost like you could very much be a disinformation guy who is throwing out crazy things to take the focus.
That's why you need to check
I'm not saying you are, but you understand what I mean?
Yeah, well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Trust but verify. I'm begging people to just simply... In fact, Jaron, you're out there. I can't remember the exact headline. We're lining them up again. Top EPA scientists say fluoride deadly. Will you print me some mainstream articles on that or give me that press release? Here's the issue. I had them on in 2000. I had them on in 2005. Now they're sending more certified letters to the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency scientists, FDA scientists by the thousands, EPA and FDA, top toxicologists, you name it. I mean, PhDs, the vast majority, he just gave it to me, they have come out with press release after press release and with peer-reviewed papers saying we are the majority. The head of the FDA union in 2005 testified before Congress. You can search engine this. You can have them on your show. And they explain that sodium fluoride in 1 part per million precipitates into the bones and more than doubles bone cancer in boys. Some studies quadruples. Let me continue. Attacks every organ and is also reduces fertility. And here's one of the press releases. EPA scientists and workers call for an end to water fluoridation because of cancer risk. And it is 100% a Pulitzer Prize-winning author.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. That is fact that people can check on. Here's fact that is absolutely known because we live it on a daily basis. Why then is the life expectancy higher than it's been in any other time in history and keeps getting higher and higher?
That's where I was going next.
All right.
Okay. Let me answer it. I can answer your question in about 5 minutes. Where is the closest old cemetery in your area?
I don't know, but I could find it.
Yeah.
In front of Modell's.
Okay, well, my family's been in Texas since 1829. We got Mexican land grants. And so the Joneses, the Johnsons, and the Browns all lived in the same area, and they intermarried. And I can go to family cemeteries in Teague, Texas, in Fairfield, Texas, in Buffalo, Texas, that have graves from 1829, 1830. And you go there, and up to half of them are little Missy Jones died at 6 months. We love her. Around half of them are kids under the age of 10, most of them just a few months old. And if you go to a cemetery with people from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, you will find that around 20%, again, that's a rough estimation, but a larger percentage of them are children. And so the issue is when you average out, yes, and there's been major studies on this, and in fact, I've had people that do actuaries from insurance companies, on to talk about this. When you average out the life expectancy and take out the infant mortality rate, because infant mortality is way down in the entire Western world. A lot of women died in childbirth. Cemeteries are full of them. 15 years old, 20 years old. Women used to get married when they were 13.
Yeah,
and
good old days.
Yeah. Well, the point is that you go in there and there's a lot of 15, 20-year-old women. A lot of them would die the first time they had a kid, and the rest are dead kids. And so women aren't dying in childbirth like they did. Now, you take those out. The average person, depending on the year, you can look at the actuaries online. There's been major Harvard studies on this. If you made it past the time you were about 15, the average person lived to be above 80. So now the average male, 74 years? The average woman, about 76. In Russia, it's dropped from the 70s down into the mid-50s. And now for the first time, our infant mortality is going back up and population is going down. Now, they have more high-tech sciences. So they pump the poisons into you and the soft-kill degenerative weapons that take time and so no one notices it until decades later. And then they use high-tech science and expensive drugs, now that you're a retiree, to suck all the money out of you in the process of slowly killing you.
But you can't use Harvard as a legitimate source of study like this and then beforehand say that they're basically part of the machine.
No, I was talking about specifically at the key fraternities of the rich blue bloods, at Harvard, at Yale, at Princeton, specifically being infiltrated, and Skull and Bones being founded by British intelligence. And
but why do studies, though, that absolutely... Again, why do studies that would absolutely disprove
I can go to a cemetery and it's full of dead kids.
Well,
you average them out, I'm right.
I'm not saying there's not a lot of dead kids in cemeteries, but again, why even allow that study to be done? There's such simple things that could stop this stuff from coming out. Why allow the institution to do a study that basically disproves that?
In 1961, in his farewell address, Eisenhower said, watch out for the military-industrial complex. Over 90% of funding in universities and studies is now government. And more, they are trying to adulterate studies. And you do have to watch them. Look, all I know is this. My taxes are going way up, and I can watch congressional hearings, whether it's Bush people or Obama people, and they say, where's the $500 billion? Where's the $800 billion? Where's the $2 trillion? And the head of the Fed, the head of the New York Fed, the head of the Treasury, all former Goldman Sachs people paying themselves bailout money, sit there and say, I'm not going to tell you where the $2 trillion went. Sit down and shut up. Now, I know something's wrong with that picture, and I'll expand on that. I watched Henry Paulson with Congressman Stern. This is in my film, The Obama Deception, and Congressman Stern said, from Florida, said, well, you know what? We know where $218 million went. It went to you. How did you, as the former head of Goldman Sachs, holding hundreds of millions in Goldman stock, how did you get a $218 million payment of bailout money you gave AIG that you knew was going to pay out to Goldman Sachs? And he said, I got a waiver. And Congressman Stern said, who gave you that waiver? And he said, I'll tell you who gave me that waiver. I did. Now, let me tell you, that isn't a conspiracy. That's out in the open, raping me and my family and raising all these taxes and getting rid of middle-class tax cuts. California raised a bunch of taxes. Bloomberg reports 46 states are about to go bankrupt. I have the government and banking documents where they plan to bankrupt states. They create the welfare system. Things go bankrupt. The banks come in and loan us fiat money and take over our society. And California knew 2 years ago.
Wait, what documents that says that they plan to bankrupt states?
In 2002, I'll just give you one of the big ones that the BBC got, Greg Palast. They got IMF World Bank documents that are international front consortiums for the private central banks, that their U.S. consortium front holding company is the Federal Reserve. And in those thousands of pages of documents, it's called, in fact, one headline, it became world news, was IMF World Bank documents. What was that headline? IMF World Bank documents. it'll pop in my head in just a second. IMF World Bank document story goes viral, I think was one of my headlines, and then it links over to the BBC. But the point is that in there, it's the 100-point plan, how they go in, how they buy off politicians, and they take decades to do this, how they get the politicians to take big loans from them. Then when they don't pay those loans back and they tell them not to, then they lose their credit rating. Then the loans go up even bigger. And